There is this distinct point in time for every founder's journey, where you make the transition from being just the founder to being CEO. I've gone through this transition myself, and when I was making that transition, there were some counterintuitive things that I had to deal with. I had to restructure my days. I had to approach my job in a whole different way. I had to get used to managing people that reported directly to me that were twice my age with 4 times the experience. So in this episode, I'm gonna walk you through the 3 principles that you absolutely need to know to manage this transition, to transition from founder to CEO, so that you can be the leader you need to be to grow your SaaS business and take it to the next stage of growth. Intro. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Unstoppable. I'm TK, and on this channel, I help SaaS founders like you grow your SaaS businesses faster with an unstoppable strategy. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button and that bell icon, because I drop a video like this with actionable strategies to grow your SaaS business 2-3 times a week with the TK energy. If you are part of my SaaS coaching programs, if you are part of this community, welcome back. It's really awesome to see you over here. Now, I remember with Tout Out when we hit about 12 people. When we hit 12 people, I finally agreed to change my business card, my email signature to say CEO instead of just founder. And there was a very good reason for this. I refused to call myself CEO until we at least had 12 to 15 employees. Because then finally I had something to actually chiefly execute over. Before that, I was just a founder. We were a team. Everyone kind of just worked together to make something happen. That's how I looked at it. But as I was making that transition, it became very apparent to me, and thankfully I had some mentors and advisors that also guided me in this, that I had to change how I approached my job, my day-to-day. There were some big shifts I had to make to actually be a true CEO. Not only that was needed, but also what the company and the employees really wanted. And so in this episode, I'm gonna walk you through the 3 principles, and actually I have a bonus one for you this time. The 4 principles really, the 3 plus 1, that you absolutely need to know to make that transition from founder to founder and CEO, how you need to actually restructure your days, think about your job, think about a certain cadence. I'm gonna walk you through all of it. So if you're excited to dig in, go ahead and smash that like button, and let's go into principle number 1. So principle number 1 is you absolutely need to first hire a VA or an EA, a virtual assistant or an executive assistant. Once you hit a certain number of employees, let's just say 12 to 15, you have to start thinking about what are the jobs that you're doing, what are the tasks that you're doing on a routine basis, on a regular basis, that are just literally below your pay grade. And it's not because you're too good to do it, it's because the company needs you to do other things. And for every founder, and I had this, in fact, my friend Xander Ford, his amazing friend, he had to force me to do, he's like, you have to at least hire a $15 an hour VA. At least do that and start to offload some tasks. And I was like, okay, let me do that. And it was game changing because it helped me realize there was a bunch of repetitive tasks that I was doing that I really didn't need to do. And very cheaply, we could get done through a VA, and I could learn to delegate. And by hiring that VA, it allowed me to start to shift into, okay, there are a whole bunch of things that I do. What are the things that I can delegate to others? And what are the things that no one else in the company can do? And let me delegate the things that I can delegate so I can focus on the things that need to get done that no one else in the company can do. And hiring a VA and then hiring an EA actually allowed me to get into that mindset and become a better person at delegating. So principle number 1 that I always tell founders that are making the transition to CEO is start with a virtual assistant or switch to an executive assistant, whatever you can afford, depending on how much you've raised and what stage your company's in. Start with something like this. There are VAs out there that can start at $5 an hour. There are VAs out there that can start at $15 an hour. There are VAs out there that can charge you $55 an hour because they're based in the States. It really depends. It really depends on the capabilities that you need and the tasks that you need to offset. But start to think about how you can get a virtual assistant to actually delegate certain tasks so that you can focus on the things that no one else can do. Once you've done that, then principle number 2 ends up becoming you need to set up your calendar. See, one of the things that is not really said is you're a CEO, but you're not really a CEO. You know, you think about a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, that CEO job is very different. You think about a 1,000-person SaaS business, that CEO job is wildly different. than your 15-person company and your CEO gig. The thing is, when you are the CEO and founder of an early stage company, you're essentially in a hybrid role. You're in a hybrid role where you are following both a maker and a manager schedule. There's this thing around a maker schedule versus a manager schedule. Paul Graham wrote about it a while ago. I'll link to the article below. It's always good to read. But the whole idea behind it is people either have maker schedules or manager schedules. And if you try to actually combine the two, it's very hard to do both. Meaning, context switching between managing someone, doing a one-on-one, and then jumping right back into coding, for example, or looking at your marketing copy or tweaking your ads. Making that switch between managing and creating or making is super, super difficult. And the reality is, while it is difficult and that context switching is really hard, that's the reality of your job as an early stage CEO. You have to switch between managing and making, managing and making. And the best thing that you can do for yourself is to own that, to say, you know what, I'm gonna actually have to set aside some work blocks. This is what I did. I started setting aside some work blocks of 2 to 3 hours in the day where it would be no meetings, there would be no managing. It would be a good chunk where I could just go heads down and get work done and not be interrupted. What that allowed me to do was actually commit to the things I needed to make, I needed to create, that I was still responsible for, while also setting aside time for managing. And it allowed me to actually think proactively about my calendar and actually set up the right work blocks, set up the right meetings, so that I could actually run my week in an effective way between being a maker and also a manager. So that's principle number 2. Start to think about your calendar and how you can split it up between actual management time and making time, because likely there are a bunch of things you're still creating and you're responsible for, no one else can do. And it's not quite just being a CEO, it's also doing that other hat that you wear, which is founder. So that's principle number 2, super, super powerful. Now, before I go to 3 and 4 is the bonus one, let me just pause here for a second. If you start to see the power in this, if you're starting to see the power in delegating the low-level tasks that no one else can do, if you're starting to see the power of delegating tasks that you're just not capable of doing, I have an entire team around me now, and these are the things that I'm not capable of doing well at all, and so I rely on them for help. If you're starting to see the power in that, if you're starting to see the power in the fact that this is a hybrid role and you should set up your calendar accordingly, can I just get a yes in the comments below? Also smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Really likes it when you do that. Now, if you're at this stage where you're seed funded, you're starting to scale revenues, and you're switching to CEO mode, you're hiring, and you need coaching around this, you need an actual system to follow, be sure to check out my SaaS coaching program. I'll tell you more about it in this video. Let's go to principle number 3, but smash that like button if you haven't already. Principle number 3 is you should establish a management cadence. What do I mean by that? Management can become a system also. Management shouldn't be ad hoc. It shouldn't just be like, hey, what's up, how's it going? You should have a system around it. Now, here's how I like to do it, and here's how I've seen a lot of successful CEOs that I've worked with or worked for do it. Firstly, you should have a weekly leadership team meeting where you review key metrics. This should be a meeting either on Monday or Tuesday. It should be early in the morning. It should be probably in about an hour and a half, where you and all your direct reports, the key leaders in the company, as you start to recruit them and grow them, come in and you all sit down, and there's a very specific agenda of things that you're gonna look through, the metrics, the KPIs you're gonna look through, the discussion items you're gonna go through. This is how you make sure that you're driving alignment across all the leaders in the team as you start to build them out. Now, I started with just an all hands team meeting when we were at 6 people. As we started to hire VPs and managers, I started to actually make sure that the key leaders were in that meeting. As we started to grow the company, we also made sure that there was a meeting with my direct reports, and those direct reports, if they were mid-level managers, they had their own management team meetings to make sure that we're just all aligned every week on what our key goals are, what the key blockers are, what our key metrics are. And that way we could actually make sure that we keep our finger on the pulse of the business versus just going by feelings and just making it more of a therapy session. And so that was super important. Setting up a management cadence started with our weekly leadership meetings. In addition to the weekly leadership meetings, I also set up weekly one-on-ones with my key direct reports. This made sure that we could meet one-on-one And this could be 30 minutes, it could be a walking session, it could be a Zoom session, it could be an hour, depending on the scale and span of the job. But we made sure that we had that one-on-one to actually look at the metrics, look at our key priorities, look at blockers, and just make sure that they have everything they need to be successful in their role. Now, it started with weekly one-on-ones, but as I started to hire VPs, I switched them to monthly because they required less supervision. But when I had younger managers or managers that were first-time managers, I had weekly just to make sure they were set up for success. But this made sure that there was a structure on every week we would meet as a leadership team, make sure we understand all the issues and progress around the business. And then if there were some big, hairy things in a specific department, we would handle that in the one-on-ones. But it made sure that there was always a guaranteed touch point to make sure that everyone was on track and we were looking at the right KPIs around the business. Now, the third piece I did to establish a management cadence was also establish OKRs. Objectives and key results. OKRs is a framework that helps you create a strategy and a direction for your company. It looks at, okay, what are the big key results and what are the big objectives we want to tackle? This is typically done on a quarterly basis. You set OKRs for the year and also break them down into quarterlies. So what we always made sure was we made sure to align everything we were doing, everything we were looking into to our quarterly OKRs. Now, if you want to learn more about OKRs and how to set up this management cadence, be sure to check out this video where I go much more into detail on how to set up OKRs and why they're so powerful. I also give you an actual framework to follow on how to create a strategy for your company using OKRs inside of my coaching program. So you may be interested in that as well. Now, I have one more for you because this is just super important. If you're at this stage where you're seed funded or you're growing and you have revenues, you're hiring and you're switching to CEO mode, first of all, congratulations, this is awesome. Second of all, chances are one of the big things you're gonna have to be super vigilant about, especially in this environment, is recruiting. So the last bonus one I have for you is you should set up a process for recruiting. Because little by little, while you may have this hybrid role right now, what you're really doing is you're making sure your company grows, your leaders are successful, and little by little, you're giving away more and more of your maker responsibilities. You're hiring better and better people to take over those key areas. So eventually you become a true CEO where you're really not directly responsible for the creation of anything. You're clearly putting in the right people. In order to do that, in order to keep driving the growth, you need to make sure you're able to recruit the right people in. And so recruiting VPs, recruiting directors, recruiting great talent becomes almost a full-time job as you go into full CEO mode. The best CEOs I've always worked for, they were hyper vigilant about recruiting talent. They had their own systems, they had their own processes. Now, if you're digging more into how do I recruit my first set of VPs, VP of sales, VP of marketing, VP of engineering, I did an entire video on this as well, on how to actually go about recruiting your key VPs in an early stage company. You should check that out as well. So those are the key things. As you're starting to transition from being a founder to CEO, it's not just about how you run a single day, it's how you adopt a system to be a successful early stage CEO. And these are my core principles around it. First, start by offloading your very basic tasks. Hire a VA or an EA and get that going. Second, set up your calendar so that you accommodate for a maker and also a manager schedule. You accommodate for both because that's what you're responsible for. Number 3, establish a management cadence. I'll link to the videos I talked about down below. And number 4, embrace recruiting because you're gonna be doing a lot more of that and get really, really good at it. If you got value from this video, be sure to smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. If you wanna work with me, if you wanna hire me as your coach so that I can help you make this transition and be a great CEO for your SaaS business, go to tkkader.com/apply, APPLY. You can apply to get on a strategy call with me where we can talk through what your needs are, what stage you're in, and if I can help. It's super easy. You can just go there and fill out the information and then we'll get on a call. Also, if you got value, be sure to share this video with your fellow founders and team members. We put a lot of love into these. I also drop a video like this 2 to 3 times a week. So be sure to the subscribe button and that bell icon where you'll get notified every single time I drop an episode. And lastly, remember, everyone needs a strategy for their life and their business. When you are with us, yours is going to be unstoppable. I'm TK, and I'll see you in the next episode.